Welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast. My name is Ian Ray, your host, and today I have Anthony Rosado here, and he's going to be sharing his story about how he got into doing fascia stretch therapy, his thriving business currently here in New York, and a little bit more of his backstory. But Anthony, welcome to the Stretch to Go podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, sir. So I want to dive right in. I know we kind of chit-chatted beforehand, but tell me, where are you located right now, and how long have you been doing fascia stretch therapy?
So my office is located in Franklin Square, New York, which is on Long Island. I've been doing FST since October of 2014, 15. So we're coming up on close to 10 years. Almost, just about.
So you're like one of the OGs.
Like I've been doing it a long time now. Yes.
Man, that's awesome. So how did that happen? Like, did you ever think you were going to do fascia stretch therapy in the as a business, or like how did you get started in this?
No, I had no idea. It was not even on my radar. I was going to school for physical therapy. I was interning at a bunch of therapy places, but to make some money, I was working at a local gym.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, another instructor from another facility came in and was like trying to tell us about this cool new certification that would, help us build our business or get different clientele. And honestly, I was not even really paying attention to it. Somebody asked me, "Oh, could you be the demo? Just lay on the table and we'll, use you as a guinea pig and stretch you." And then after that, I was like, I have to know what this is. And that kind of just changed the whole trajectory of my life. So it's pretty funny that that's how it happened.
So what kind of PT were you trying to get into? Did you have an idea, like sports, rehab, ortho?
Yeah. So I knew I definitely wanted to be more sports rehab, but I definitely was interning and kind of trying to experience like a whole different thing. So I did in a private one-on-one like business setting. I did hospital setting, sports setting. I kind of wanted just to get a feel for it. But sports is what my background was in, so that was more closely with what I wanted.
Okay, cool. And I know you have you moved currently. Is your clinic that you have, did you move there recently, or have you established yourself there at that Franklin clinic?
So no, I've been in the Franklin clinic now. We opened in 2018. We just underwent a major renovation. Both internal was last year, and now external was this year to kind of update the facility and make it, a little more premier, a little more upscale for the clientele that I'm, receiving at that location. And it's just it's been great since I opened my doors there.
So the type of people that you're, treating, I mean, can you explain to us like the demographics, the population, the people that you're working with right now?
Yeah, so the majority of my clients tend to be general pop, middle age. I do get a lot of college and high school athletes as well. And that's the majority. That's my bread and butter that I see Monday through Friday. And then I'll have the occasional, professional athlete that I'll work with, but obviously their schedules are much more hectic and spread out. But consistently, so consistently it's much more of like my high school, college athletes and my general pop.
Okay. Is that kind of, because I've only been to Long Island once, but would you say that a lot of people don't mind traveling out there rather than say like in Manhattan?
I guess it really depends. I'm in a very good location. I'm in like I'm kind of central. So if you're coming from Queens or the city, I'm only like a half hour by train. And then obviously all the Suffolk, the farther part of Long Island, when you go out more east, it's a lot easier for people to get to me too. So I'm in a good central spot that I tend to get kind of people from all over. I've had people come from Jersey, from the Bronx. So I'm in a good spot for business.
Dang. Um, so how did you first, when you first heard about FSD, through the trainer, right, that came in, did you ever have like any hesitancy when you're like looking up, like, how do I enroll in this stretch to win thing? But how did that story go as far as like being introduced to stretch to win and then you going into it and then you're like, well, this is it.
Yeah. So It was actually me and a group of my buddies, other trainers at the gym that were like, yeah, like, let's go get this certification. It's working, but it's a vacation. We'll go to Toronto for a week. This sounds amazing, you know? So we all jumped at the chance, me and three of my other friends who were also working at the gym. And next thing you know, we hopped on a flight, I think 3 or 4 months later, whenever the next level 1 certification was. And that was it. Had a blast.
No hesitancy whatsoever, because were you kind of sold when you're on the table and like being stretched, like, man, this is awesome.
I was pretty sold on it. Obviously, the cost was and continues to be, obviously something that, everybody has to kind of wrestle with. Is this for me? The gym that I was at happened to be a gym that had a lot of, so it was UFC gym, which is now a huge brand, but in its infancy, had a lot of semi-pro and pro fighters as the trainers, as they were trying to build the brand. So the location I was at, a lot of the trainers were pro fighters. So I'm like, nobody's going to come in here and train with me when you can train with this guy that fought on TV last week. There's just no way. It's not happening. So what I ended up saying was, listen, I need something that's going to set me apart and kind of give them a reason or give me a selling point that I can actually say, hey, listen, you could do this with them, but you could do this with me. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I looked at it as like, listen, I'm living at home. I have no bills. I'm going to school still. And then at the time I had just started an internship. So I was like, you know what, like, let me give this a shot and just see where it goes. So that's kind of what happened.
So basically you went from not knowing FSC, going into it. And then when you came back, did you like feel like you wanted to start a business, or did you kind of just incorporate it with your clients? Like, I guess, how did that happen from the time you came back from the course? Did you just include it with your clients, stretching them? And then from that point till when you started the business, like what was happening?
So I came back and I just integrated it directly into my business. I had no idea or no desire at that point to, oh, let me go start my own things. What happened was pretty drastically, and I don't know if this speaks to me being good at stretching or bad at training, but I would say overnight, 70% of my clients just wanted to stretch. They didn't even want to train anymore. They just felt so, oh my God, I love this. We just do this for an hour instead of working me out. And so overnight, I would say it was just one of those things where it just transitioned, and everybody, I would say 7 out of every 10 people now, I was stretching instead of training. And I said, you know what? I kind of like this a little better. So let's just let this go and see where it leads. And I just was taking on more and more stretching and less training.
So 2014, right? That's how long you've been doing FST.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I 2014, 2015.
Okay.
I didn't have the exact, but yeah, I'm coming up on about 10 years of doing FST, which is pretty wild when I think about it, but it's been a journey.
Dude, that's when I like graduated college. So I'm thinking like, dang, you've been doing it for so long. Uh, what you call it? But as far as like the type of people that you're working with, do you have any clients that kind of sticks out as far as like success stories or wins from the time they started till, maybe they stopped going with you or they're still continuing? Like, can you share with us some stories that you have?
Yeah, I mean, my first two, they're not coming in weekly anymore, but I still see my first two clients from almost 10 years ago. I was
No way.
training this young girl,
Mm-hmm.
and she was lazy, didn't like training. And I told her this to her face, so this is nothing new. After she watches this, she'll know who I'm talking about. And she wanted to stretch, and she was like, "Yeah, I'd rather stretch." And they said, "Hey, my dad actually, he's having hip problems. They're telling him he needs a double hip replacement. Let him come see you." And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, hey, listen, if it helps, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. I know what I can do, and if it can't help, we'll go from there." Came in, loved it. Actually was able to hold off on his hip replacement surgery for another 2 years.
That's
And
amazing.
then he went and got the procedure, and now I see him on a semi-regular basis. We've stayed close, we've stayed in touch, and him and his daughter both still come and see me from here and there. So that was probably the one I was most proud of, because that was my first, and they're still kind of with me. on this journey, and they've been with me when I was stretching people out of my house, out of my basement, out of other people's gyms, and now my location. So they've seen the whole circle. So I'm pretty happy. That's like my number one thing that I'm proud of.
Yeah. I feel like I would feel the same too down the road for me is like that first client because you're brand new, you're stretching this, and then of course you kind of like aren't sure, but then you just see that progress. You see yourself being, become better as a practitioner, and then of course them improving. Like you have that connection right away, because you're young in the game, and then of course down the road, like 10 years from now, you'll be like, man, we have come along together so long, rather than yeah, I think that's something that's I hope I can get to the point. So um when you explain to people what fascia is, especially for those who don't know, what kind of analogy do you give them typically?
So, it's been tough because when you say fascia, and when I first started, they were calling it fascial stretch.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
people say, "Oh, face stretching, you stretch people's faces," and it's tough because my background being in biology and science, and it's like, but so I just try to dumb it down as much as possible, and it's nothing wrong with that. I just say, look, listen, I say, you got to think of fascia as like, almost when you're peeling back layers of an onion, right? There's like muscles and tissue in your body, and then there's layers and stuff, right? So just think of it like that, like the stretching, we're trying to unravel everything, kind of slowly open things up, right? We're trying to
Mm,
unbox the present. That's what I tell people, right? When you unbox the present, right? You got to open the ribbon. You got to tear back the paper. You might have to cut open the box, take it out carefully, right? There's different steps to it. So I just say, listen, fascia is just like the stuff that helps your muscles and your body move better, right? When your fascia is nice and flowing, so is the rest of your body. And a lot of people still might not get it, and that's why my recommendation always is, listen, let's get you on the table, right?
mm,
It's not quite a massage, it's not chiro work. It's right in the middle. It's at the table. So I try to keep it short and sweet, and I always try to invite people in, even if I'm at a location, right, for a demo. It's a lot easier for people to experience it than for anybody to explain it.
facts. Yeah, it's true. I think what we do is like you have to get on the table because it'll go to. So you do aesthetics, like you said, the facial, like it's so construed. So the magic is on the table, what we do with our hands and just our body, like it does the work. We don't have to explain it. So I totally agree. Um, I guess when you first started, do you happen to know, like when you started your business, I guess, do you have any long-term goals? Obviously, you've been doing this for 10 years now. Do you have any employees working under you, or are you kind to looking to expand as far as like different locations, hiring more, hiring employees?
Yeah, so it was pretty funny when I set out. I mean, once I knew it was going to be a thing, and this is what I'm going to do, I, I pretty quickly what my mark was, hey, let's get a successful business going, and then let's have a location that these people can come to for regular service. That's mine, right? Um, I've always been the type that has tried to add on to the business, but I've had people come in and out that I've mentored, people that have worked for me, people that have worked at my location as independent contractors.
I guess my next question to you is, what would you say to that one person who's on the fence about enrolling with Stretch to Win for the FST course?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of those people. Some of them were clients, some of them were people that went
Hey.
on and took FST. And what I tell them is, listen, it's a decision that's costly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's something that, you know, if you're willing to totally put 2 feet into, you'll be able to get something out of it. I mean, I've done many things in my life, but this is probably the thing that, you know, uh, the more work you put in, the more results you'll see from it. And I don't mean that from a client standpoint. I mean that from like the more you go around and talk to people, stretch them, you'll get opportunities because it was way faster than when I was doing training. I mean, listen, it's unique.
Hmm.
And again, it's not for everybody. Maybe the cost to entry scares people off, but if it's something that you're willing to take a risk on and you're going to put the effort into, you will 100% see the outcomes of it. And I'm a testament to that. And so are a lot of other of my colleagues that I've spoken to over the years.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, you're taking time away from your employment and then you're going to a different place. You're going to a modality you don't know. So there's, of course, a lot of uncertainty. So I felt that too, but I was kind of sold just because I was doing assisted stretching for a year already. And so I was just trying to find a modality and a certification to say, I could do this under a training. Um, so for you, I think that's the question that you had is that what's your long-term goals for your business?
Right. So yeah. So I mean, I hit those pretty early in my career. I knew that I wanted my own space to treat my clients, and I mean, after all these years, my place is probably exactly perfectly how I wanted it, with everything. The function from the moment you walk in, from the positioning of the equipment to the everything is finally, after 5, 6 years in the same space, how I wanted it. But long term, I always look at it like not linear, right? So now I'm in
Mm,
an office space. If the opportunity came for me to work with the team or develop a partnership with the team, I'm always open to that. Um, and then obviously, I think at some point, maybe not right now because I'm still a young man, but at some point I would probably want to slow down and have people that work either for me or with me,
mhm.
because now I don't mind. I'll do 40, 50 hours a week, but yeah, I don't want to be 50, 60 doing 40, 50 hours a week. That's not where I envision myself. I value my time, so I would love probably to have some employees and just have the flexibility with my time, to maybe pursue other hobbies or interests, not necessarily work related stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely you need that long. It's hard to do longevity in this game as a practitioner. I think probably it'll be hard for you to do different positions as what stretches depending on your activity level. Um, how do you see fascia stretch therapy evolving in the coming years? You've been doing this for 10 years, but have you seen a growth in the influx of people interested in fascia stretch therapy? And do you think there's going to be more of a need for it?
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, and I think that not fascia stretch therapy, but just stretch therapy as a whole is something that
Hmm.
is an industry that's exploded. Almost in a way, 10 years ago when I was training and coming up, as a trainer, seeing how CrossFit exploded, right? But the main difference here is that, like, stretch therapy is something that, listen, people are always going to get injured. People are always going to be hurt. People always are not going to be comfortable in their own bodies. So the recovery and the
Hmm.
stretching is always going to be necessary. It's always going to be there. Um, I'm getting more business now than I ever got from people Googling stretch therapy, because they might see Stretch Lab or Stretch Zone and they think like, oh, what's this? I want to stretch. And then now you're finding 4 other 5 practitioners in your area that do fascial stretch therapy or do myofascial release, right? So I think the industry is only getting started now. More people are aware of it and they're actively looking for it. And then the future of FST, I think, has an opportunity to just explode with that. I don't know what that might be. Chris and Nan in the past have spoke about franchises or other locations. I'm not sure what their hopes and dreams are for FST, but I hope we can get to a point where, it's almost like a model where it's like, it's on that level with those brands where it's like, in the fitness industry, like a Club Pilates, where everybody knows what that is. And it's
Hmm.
universal. Doesn't matter if you're in Florida or New York, right? You just walk into a Club Pilates and take a class, or you walk into an Orange Theory, right? So I truly envision Stretch to Win getting to that point. And I think it's on the practitioners now to just bring the awareness to your community, because stretch therapy is rapidly growing, and I'm seeing it here in New York, and I'm sure in other parts of the country it's going as well the same way.
Yeah. So what do you think is like your most common causes for people coming in needing to be treated for?
Most of the time, I get a lot of back, and back is something that, in terms of just health and wellness in this country, people don't understand, because it's one of those things where I worked briefly in the NBA with the Brooklyn Nets, and they would always, the PTs, the doctors would always say, like, the easiest way for an athlete or anybody to get out of playing a game is just say you have a back injury, because it's not going to show up on a scan, it's not going to show up on an X-ray or a report, and only the person knows their own pain and their own tolerance. And I think back pain is probably the number one misdiagnosed thing in this country. Oh, you have back pain. Not thinking about the person probably might have a weak core, a bad gait, some glute hamstring, right? The lumbo-hip pelvic complex. There'd be so many things wrong, but oh, it's a bad back, right? Instantly, right? Where you're feeling the pain, that has to be the cause of the problem. So I get a lot of people that just are not aware of their bodies. They're being told what the doctors are telling them, and because it's wrong. And so they come in as a last resort, like, I don't want to get surgery. I've tried everything. And it's kind of a learning experience for them to understand, no, your back is okay. Your back is one of the strongest muscle groups of your entire body. So it's kind of like trying to help them unlearn a lot of the negative things in Western medicine, and right away, oh, let's get a cortisone injection. I've heard it all. I've seen it all.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think people go through pills, injections, surgeries, right, to fix these issues that you could actually heal your body through this type of things, whether if it's training or even physical therapy. There are different modalities to avoid it. And I feel like this is very important for people to know. What strategies have you found to be successful in, like, growing your business, from the day you started till now? What kind of things have you done that kind of like blew up? Was it more word of mouth, or?
Word of mouth was definitely something that helped, but honestly, the biggest thing that exploded, and especially helped me on social media, which I again, I wasn't trying to do, and I'll be honest, I've never spent a dime until very recently. But the first 8 to 9 years, I didn't spend any money on social media marketing. Was just, I would invite people in for a collaboration with me, and I would just say, hey, I'm willing to take you through a session. We'll film it, we'll record it, and I just want you to share. If you enjoy it, I just want you to share it with your audience, because it'll be something that I think will be beneficial for them and for you. And that's what's kind of got me to the point where I'm at now, just different people in the health and fitness industry, and just trying to make my way through it. Yeah.
I'm going to do that. Can I do that? I'm going to try to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, absolutely. Listen, I have no secrets, and I've had people come in and they don't believe me, and I'm like, listen, you could stay with me, spend the week with me. You'll see what I do. I literally go into Instagram, and again, like we talked before we started the recording about the 6 degrees of separation. I'll look, like, now that I know you, I might go through your follower list and say, oh, that person has a big following in fitness and health. Hey, come in for a free session. And if you like it, post the clips, tag me, share it, and, if people come in and people start giving me business, then you can keep coming back in. That's been my bread and butter for the last almost decade. And it's not a secret. I just, sometimes you got to be willing to give something to get something better in return. And that's just how it is. You can't be afraid. You don't have to give a whole, a package or like a whole big thing. But hey, listen, half hour, calm session. You take care of me, I take care of you. And a lot of the times it's as simple as asking.
Okay. Do you do any type of like events and like outreaches like within the community too? As far as like pop-ups and stuff?
Yes. So I have a couple of local businesses that I've been very friendly with over the year, and we have a business relationship. And so, they'll have an annual event or something they do, and I always participate in that. Or I look for, if there's a business opening around me, especially if it's related to health and fitness. We had a business that just opened up that was like a protein health store that had like smoothies and shakes and like all the supplements. And so I went over there and got friendly with them. And that's really what it is. Just looking for things that kind of relate to what I do. Gyms, health clubs, stores, vitamin shop, things like that, because people in those settings are probably the most already open or understanding, and so that's why I've had the most success.
Sure. So like, I guess my question to you too is like reaching new clients, besides this, organically happening through, stretching these people for free, other avenues that you've, got, whether from referral or whether it feels, other type of marketing? You said you never paid for social, but about like other type of marketing.
Yeah. So it's tough because I think it was definitely hard work, but a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it, I believe, was just, I'm going to say luck, and there's nothing wrong with that because I've never done any other marketing. It's always been just bartering on social, word of mouth, and then doing events here and there. I mean, I got lucky. I had a couple of good friends that owned like an indoor soccer facility,
Yeah, yeah.
and they would do tournaments, and they had pro soccer players that would come and play from midnight to 3 a.m. and I would sit there for 3 hours and stretch the sweatiest, dirtiest soccer players in the state. And I got that, that helped because I was willing to do that, and I made many connections, so much business from that. A longtime client of mine who plays on the U.S. men's national team, Timothy Way, I got that opportunity through that. And yeah, I mean, it's tough because my story is not like a lot of other people's stories. Like, I wish I could tell you, yeah, I did marketing here and I spent money here. I didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to brag. I just feel like I I knew what my strengths were.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, like, I didn't have the resources to put into campaigns, and I didn't know much about it, so I just didn't want to waste money. But I knew that, hey, I'll talk to people, I'll network, I'll invite people in. I'm on my phone all day. I will text 30, 40 people a day and invite them in. And that's what I've always done.
Man, that's sure. Me being a solopreneur, like I'm starting from the ground up, so I feel like this is what, I will probably be going through too. Is just kind of grinding it out, doing the unorthodox type of things that you normally do because I don't have a lot of capital. So for me, I mean, I think that's more beautiful, more organic because you're really giving people the opportunity to get on the table and them actually feeling it so that they can tell their friends. So I think that's awesome for me to know that that's possible. Yeah. Well, man, I do want to close off by asking you to share with the audience for, I guess, how people can follow you, learn more about what you're doing. So if you want to give people your social media handle, a website, an email, and then your physical work location.
Sure, yeah. So you can follow me on all socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff at Recover with Rosado. I'm most active on Instagram. That's where you see the majority of my business stuff is. The name of my business is Pro Strength and Recovery. My website is prostrengthrecovery.com. And you can find me if you're ever in Long Island in New York. My address is 67 Franklin Avenue in Franklin Square. And it's been a pleasure talking with you this afternoon for sure.
Yeah, man, Anthony, thank you so much. I'm gonna follow up with you. I'm gonna keep you updated on like my progress, and definitely want to pick your brain, keep you as a mentor. So I appreciate it, brother.
So please do anytime. I'm a resource, and it was again, it was great. And I wish you all the best because really it's just, as a solopreneur myself and starting out, that's what it is. Talk to people, pick their brain, and just keep going.
Yeah, appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Bye.